Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Mondays at Noon. I'm Dr. Molly Pepper. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs here in the School of Business. And this is Mondays at Noon, which is our weekly forum where we gather as a community to talk about topics that are important to us as a business school. We are recording this session, and it will be available on the School of Business YouTube channel. And today we have two guests from our Career and Professional Development Center, Ray Engel and Erin Shields, and they are going to be talking with us about careers a little later in our program. So I'll introduce them as we go. So before we talk to them, we're going to take a pause just to reflect and then to engage in two short networking exercises. Because this is the forum where we gather as a community, I'm going to ask that we take a moment and reflect on that community. This is election week. I know that our community and the outcome of the election is very much on our minds. So please just join me in a moment of reflection in gratitude for the Gonzaga community and the connection that we have to one another. Thank you. Next, we're going to hold our breakout groups to allow for some networking. And then afterward, we'll be talking with Erin and Ray. Welcome back. Okay, good to see everyone. We had a few more join us while you were away in the breakout groups. So I hope everyone had a good conversation. And we will begin the second half of our program, I guess. I want to welcome our colleagues from CPD, Ray Engel, who is the Assistant Vice President for Career and Professional Development, and Erin Shields, who is the Director of Alumni and Employer Engagement. So thank you both for being here to talk with us today. And I look forward to learning more about what's happening with the careers area. And I understand you have a presentation to kick it off.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend a few minutes just talking a little bit about some challenges the class of 2020 has experienced, and certainly what's going to be happening for the coming class. So if you want to go ahead and advance, Erin. We want to kind of tell you what is happening right now. You know, we talk a lot about our outcomes report that we call the First Destination Survey. So for our last full class, the class of 2019, across the university, we had a 95.5 success rate, which meant that 4.5% were still seeking getting in a job, getting into graduate school, trying to do some volunteering. So we are in the process of collecting the data for the class of 2020. And we like to say this is going to be forever the class with an asterisk next to it to say this was the COVID year. So we've had some students who've had job offers rescinded, internships rescinded, but we're currently collecting the data, and we currently know about 52% of what the class is doing. And you can see the breakout here, but the number that concerns us is the bottom one, the still seeking. There are 14% of our students who are still seeking a position, trying to get into graduate school. And so we're really wanting to help them stay positive and be resilient through this. And we really do believe that career development takes a village, that we need a lot of stakeholders who are engaged to help our students. So really this presentation or this quick overview is about ways that you can help or you can engage other employers to help as well. Go ahead, Erin.
Yes, as Ray mentioned, friends, alumni, faculty, staff, are such important partners in this process. So we're going to go through all the ways you can help others get involved and you can be involved in support of the students.
Sure. So really, what's really important is that we have lots of jobs, internships, projects that students can be doing. And so we do have a new online platform called Zags Ignite, which is how we manage and how we have employers post jobs and internships. So if you know of people who are hiring, ask them to get on Zags Ignite and post those jobs and internships. If you have families, friends, colleagues who are working in organizations that are hiring, because this is the time when organizations are being a little more cautious with their hiring. If you know they're hiring, please ask them to post it with us. And I'm gonna kind of save the project thing because Erin's gonna talk about that. It's different than a job, a full-time job, part-time job, or an internship.
So I'm sure many of you are familiar with our treks. Some of you have joined us for treks and certainly partnered with us. We currently have them in Seattle, Portland, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, Spokane. We just did New York City virtually last week, London, and then Los Angeles and Denver we host biannually in alternating years. We usually do that in May or June. So one thing we're always inviting alumni and friends is to host a visit. A visit is a great way for students to get an inside look at an organization. It really helps in their discernment process of, can I see myself here? Do I fit with their values? And of course, the networking piece. Another thing that alums and partners can help with is to request that their organization attend a career fair. So in Seattle and Portland, we have full-blown career fairs just for the students on that trek with top organizations in those regions. Many times we have an alum representing, and then they'll bring a member of their HR team as well. And then to attend a networking lunch, dinner, or reception as part of these treks. So really, whatever their career background is, we know that alums have knowledge to share and connections to share, and they're so happy to do so. And then become a trek sponsor. So to offset the costs, we want to make sure treks are very affordable. So a trek in person is $50 for a student. Of course, per person, it costs us much more when you're talking about buses and banquets, but we always want to make that affordable. And Ray's going to talk a little bit more about scholarships as we go on.
So the question did come up, are they virtual this year? And yes, pretty much our career fairs and our treks are all virtual. We've been able to actually do some interesting things with them. And instead of just focusing on cities, we've done some extra treks that just focus on employers who are actively hiring and still trying to recruit. So we do offer a variety of career fairs, and we partner with Beta Alpha Psi this year to help them get their career fair online in September. We had our postgraduate service fair in October. And so we always need to know who's hiring, and we want more employers there. It is an online event. And while most of our career fairs had lower numbers, I think Beta Alpha Psi was pretty much on target, maybe a few extras, but the postgraduate fair was really interesting, where we typically have about 12 organizations that recruit our students for volunteering after they graduate. This fair went over 30 this year because a lot of people who couldn't travel to an in-person event, they came from all over the nation to recruit students. So that was a really odd thing that we weren't expecting. We've already had our all majors career and internship fair a few weeks ago, and our engineering computer science job and internship fair, again, all online. And so if you know of an employer who is hiring, we want to get them engaged with that. We do in the spring have a Fuse fair, and Fuse is a fair that we do in collaboration with Whitworth, WSU Spokane, and Eastern. And we have decided not to do it this year. It's a big fair. We're going to look at doing some other type of event that will engage our employers with our students in some way. So, all right.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Alumni Mentor Program and some things we're doing with the new online platform, Zags Connect. GAMP has been around for 27 years, and we are so fortunate to have a very robust group of mentors. Often I hear from colleagues at other universities asking, they're trying to set up a mentor program. How do you do this? So we're often sharing best practices with them. And I know, I mean, GAMP really started with School of Business partners with that idea of alumni who want to help, who want to recruit Zags, who want to hire Zags. So we're very fortunate. And a couple years ago, we transitioned to an online platform. Our reasons were to really bring the information to students and alumni in a way they want to connect. So it looks, and I'm going to show you a visual, it really looks like LinkedIn exclusively for the Gonzaga community. Our data is good analytics, the reports that we're able to pull. It's also alums are very inclined to go and update their profile when they change jobs, so they get a promotion. Whereas perhaps the old way, by the time they updated the university, or we'd always be calling to try to update information, now it's more instant. We have a feature called groups where you can join a group depending on your affinity. So schools and colleges, former athletes, study abroad, service oriented. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like, including this new feature called Bridges, where alums are able to post projects. So you can see this is what it looks like in Zags Connect. Another reason we did this is we heard from our alumni survey that alums wanted more alumni to alumni networking. And that is a feature of Zags Connect. So they can go on, whether they're looking or they're happily employed, but they want to do business with other Zags. This is a great way that they can find those people and connect. So a student goes on, looks at a mentor, reads about their profile, and then directly through the system can message and even select a time and a mode in which to meet with them. There's also groups. So as I mentioned before, based on your interests and backgrounds, alumni and students can join group, and just another way to have common discussion items. So under the projects tab, now we're one of a few universities in this pilot project. Projects, we're really responding to perhaps students not having internships being canceled. How can we get them relevant work experience? So this allows any mentor, once they're registered as a mentor, to post a project. So think about something that they might need at work. Past examples have been asking a student to write a marketing plan, do research project, social media blast. So you're posting it. It's very easy there's many templates in here. Post the job description, and then students apply by submitting their resume. The mentor selects someone and offers them the experience, and then they work one-on-one. Of course, these are virtual and they're unpaid, but it's a great way for that student to get relevant work experience.
So there are other ways that you can potentially help students, and certainly there are many students who have financial need. And so there is, through GSBA, the Undergraduate Professional Development Grant, but sometimes there are students who have special needs related to a special program. So let's say we're going on a New York trek, and a student really wants to go, but they can't afford it, or they can't afford a new suit. I've oftentimes reached out to alums to say, would you be willing to sponsor the student with a new suit? We actually do have now a CPD gift fund, and if you want to put some money in that we could use for that immediately. The GSBA Undergraduate Professional Development Grant, it only gives out money once a year, but a lot of times the need doesn't come on an annual, one time a year kind of cycle. And down the road, I'd really like to see Gonzaga be able to have an account, a grant to support people who want to do internships that are unpaid but really need paid kinds of work. And if you can think of other ways that you would like to support the career development needs of any of our students, just let me know and we'll have a chat about it.
So another way we welcome people to get involved, office hours and classroom presentations. Just sharing information about their career journey, insights. That's something that we're so happy to work with partners on. Whether maybe an alum's visiting Spokane, we can set up a time for them to interact with students, appointment or a drop-in basis in our office, speaking to a class, virtual offerings. As Ray said, that's really what we've been doing since March, where we pivoted and put our San Francisco Bay Area treks virtual. We've been doing a lot of those and the webinars. So anytime an alum has an idea, and we've been focusing on smaller treks lately where we can just highlight one of our key engaged employers. And I think that's all we have if we want to open for questions on any of these things to go into more detail.
Well, thank you both. Yeah, I had a couple of questions that have come to me, and Ray is answering one of them in the chat about, how do we stay resilient? And I'm a big fan of Maslow's hierarchy, so I'm glad you went to that. Makes sense that you start at the bottom and you take care of those needs, and that helps you stay strong as you move up the pyramid. Hold on a moment. Let me get to one of the other questions we had. So going back sort of to the beginning of your presentation, data about why the 14% who are still seeking, is it, is it a shortage of jobs in their areas, or?
I would say that it's not just a shortage of jobs in their area. I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and with the election, I think that a lot of employers are being very conservative in their hiring. So maybe just like us, we've got a hiring freeze, right? And so in a dynamic market, people are much more aggressive in doing their hiring because they have client needs to meet. And I think that many employers have said, well, we're not quite sure. Like, for example, I'll give you a really good example. West Monroe Partners is one of those employers that a lot of our students love. At the career fairs, their line goes around outside the door. They conduct tons of interviews when they're on campus. And so they come to our career fair, and this year they said, we're not going to come to the career fair. And I think people are really cautious about appearing like that they're hiring and getting people's hopes up. So I think hopefully, I'm hoping and praying that after the election that there will be some more confidence. I think when we know what's going to happen with COVID, if you hire somebody, are they going to work from home, or are you going to bring them into the office? So there's so much impacting it. And I will tell you, even though our success rate right now is at 86%, that's what the national average was on a positive note last year. Sorry about that. That was just a little serenading you for some relaxation. So we're at what the rest of the nation was last year. We're just accustomed to much higher outcome success rates than most colleges and universities. So while I'm concerned, I would say that if that's where we are, then other schools are really hurting. So
what is our usual success rate?
Pardon?
What is our usual success rate?
Last year was 95.5. So since I've been here, it's been pretty consistent from around 94 to 96. But and I've been here 5 years, and we have constantly or consistently used the NACE standard, which is our National Professional Association, for collecting and reporting that data. So we have until December 31st. So we will be reaching out to faculty and staff here in the next few weeks to say, hey, we don't have information on these people. If you know where they are, please let us know, because we want to get them into the survey. By the way, we have called every single graduate from the class of 2020, undergrad and grad, to say, hey, we're just here. What do you need help with? How can we support you?
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. Okay, so next question is about the career fairs. You've done a few of these virtually now, and I know students had a lot of concern about how to navigate. I mean, there's always a little concern about how to navigate a career fair. Now that they're virtual and you've run a few of them, do you have any ideas on how students can kind of shine in a virtual career fair environment?
Yeah, I would say that, well, the way to shine is to show up. I'm a little concerned that our numbers weren't as high from the student turnout, because I think they are getting discouraged. And well, what can that do? And this group of Gonzaga folks in general, because they're so committed to community, they want to have that one-on-one connection, and they get really frustrated when they don't have it. So I will tell you, we were concerned with putting these online because, one, it was a newly developed platform through the company that we use to do Zags Connect. And it was there's a lot of work to do before the career fair on the part of the employer. And if the employer didn't do their background work, it made it hard for students. I will tell you that students adapted really well to the platform and gave us really good feedback about it. What's kind of cool about it is that when you get into the virtual career fair, you look at the list of employers and you say, I want to talk to this one, and this one. You can pick 3 and basically stand in their virtual line. And you actually can talk to more people because you're not actually going and physically standing in the line. You're in a queue. And if the conversation goes quickly, you're moved up. And so I think they enjoyed it, but we're really trying to get students to understand how to look professional online and how to clean up your messy backgrounds and the inappropriate things that you might have in your room, or all of that stuff. So we do talk about that. We did a practice career fair, and a young man came into my booth. So each of us pretended to be an employer. And I said, okay, take off the ball cap, put on something, that looks professional, put a sheet up behind you if you're gonna go in, just so that I don't think about all of the other distracting stuff, but as an employer, I focus on your skills and abilities. So.
Yeah, that's great advice. Coming around to curating your background, and as well as your person. You have a question in the chat from Father Max about career Kindlers. So how are you utilizing the Kindlers in the virtual world?
If you've gone all the way through the Career Kindler program, we will frequently send special messages to that group of people to say, we need help with this, or here's something that is coming up that if you can get the word out, we'd appreciate it. So we use you that way. It's a little harder. I mean, ideally with the Career Kindler program, once you've completed it, like in the fall, right before convocation, we host a breakfast with everyone to kind of sit and talk about how they're integrating career development into their classroom. And so we're working on a project with the Career Kindlers where we, let's say once a month, send you some tips to help you as you talk to students about their career development.
Great, it's good to hear. We've got some quite a few Kindlers here on the line. So
yeah.
And just a question just came in from from Total. Do we know what the 14% are doing now in addition to
Well,
seeking? Do we know where they are?
well, most of them, I would say the majority of them have gone back home to live at home. I actually talked to one last night who's living with his parents in California. And it was really interesting because he had a job offer, but he didn't take it because it required him to move. And I was like, oh, our people are a little anxious about even making moves. So normally they're back home living with parents or working, let's say, part-time jobs. And we actually have a really wonderful resource. If you've never used it, I highly recommend it. It's called Career Shift. And it's an online platform that has information on job vacancies, employers, and contacts within those organizations. And they have a new component where you can click a little box and apply to and see jobs that are work remote jobs.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So,
that is a nice feature. So, Erin, as you went through the features in I think in Zags Connect it was, I was fascinated by the projects one. So this is a question for me. How's that going? And I know you mentioned it's a pilot, so maybe it's not up and running, but could you talk a little bit more about what that's going to be?
Yeah, no, it has been up and running since the end of July. And we have sent requests out to our alumni and friends, letting them know how they can do it, asking if they have any work projects that would be an educational experience for a student or an alum. We're opening it up to class of 2022. And it's the projects, I'd say total, we've had about 22 come in. So it's not a lot, but they've been diverse. There's been a good blend of disciplines. And so I see that the alums have all been happy too. I've been in touch with some. They've been happy with their experience hiring the students. And so far, so good. But yeah, it's something I'll continue. Something that we can work with you all is when we have a project that's in there and maybe they only have a couple applicants or 0 applicants. I should share that with you all to say, please promote this to students because there's some great experiences that have been posted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does look like a very interesting program and one for the students to be looking at.
Yeah.
So a question from one of the students on the line who is about to graduate is, what do you recommend as a student transitions from school to alum? What obviously they should register on Zags Connect. Sorry, I keep Zags Ignite and Zags Connect. I keep mixing them up on Zags Connect. But what other advice would you have for someone who's about to graduate in December?
I'm going to jump in, and then I think Erin would be great too. But if you've heard that old adage, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I don't like that adage because that basically means your college degree is not worth anything if it's not what you know, right? So I like to say it is what you know, it's who you know, and who knows you. So it's all of those things. And I would say start making connections. And you can do that through Zags Connect and through Zags Ignite, but also you can do that on LinkedIn. And you can search for alums who work in the area where you want to work geographically, or do the kind of work that you want to do, and start conducting what we call informational interviews to learn more about the profession, to get connected to more people, because this whole Zags help Zags. I've never worked at an institution in my life where that was such a strong reality, that our alums really do want to help you. You just have to be brave if you're kind of quiet and shy and don't connect well with people, to just put yourself out there and start talking about what you want. So I'll let you talk here.
Yeah, no, exactly. Zags Connect, LinkedIn, Zags Ignite. And when the pandemic started, we had a great response from alumni saying, how can we help? What can we do? How can we be most helpful to this class of 2020 and to all students right now? So they're just incredible. Another thing I recommend is that they join their regional chapter, the alumni chapter in the area they're in, and or the area they want to move to or they're hoping to get a job in. So the chapters, all of our chapter presidents are so committed to really inviting these recent grads into their local community with open arms and sharing their connections. And I mean, they're just amazing volunteers that we have. So connecting directly with the chapter president, like, you know, Andrew Sorensen, I mean, who's not going to want to talk to him and have him help you get connected? They're just wonderful people. So getting connected with the chapter would be another thing. And then like Ray said, the informational interview, they're going to be so happy to do that for you. No one is going to deny you. They love hearing from our grads, and the grads just need to make the first step and reach out.
That's great. And you've helped me several times with connecting students to do informational interviews with our alums. And I always give the students, you know, a strict time limit, like don't take more than 20 minutes of their time, you know, promise them you won't do this, and wrap up the interview. And the students come back and they say, but they just wanted to keep talking. I feel bad, but you know, we talked for 45 minutes or something. So I definitely see that in our alums. They want to help, and there is that.
Yeah, they get a lot out of it too.
Yeah, they do.
I am going to give just one more piece of advice for that student who's getting ready to graduate. It's really important as you get ready to graduate that you really know yourself and know what you want to do. It's really hard for a person to help you if you say, hey, I need help. And you're like, well, what do you need help with? And you say, well, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I want to go. And so if you don't know, it's time to start honing in on that and start moving in that direction, but also be flexible and open to opportunities that may come up that you believe fit what you want to accomplish, what you want to do.
Excellent. Yeah, good advice. I would concur from the mentoring literature that, you know, if you ask someone, will you be my mentor? And they think, oh, that's a big job. But if I come to you and ask for very specific advice, we can build from there. Okay, well, I'm trying to make sure I haven't missed anything in the chat, but please call out any more questions you have.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Of course. Dr.
I'm not gonna show you my face. Erin knows why. But so I was watching. I've been reading and watching a lot of different industries and fields. This topic of professional dress and professionalism, and how our norms of professional dress and professionalism are really white norms, right? And as you talk with students about like professional backgrounds and professional like attire and hair and such, to what degree do you address that or acknowledge like a concern that they might be conforming in ways that either aren't possible or seem discriminatory? Does that make sense, Ray and Erin?
Yeah, I do, and I can see where there could be people who feel differently about this topic, okay? I tend not to think so much about it being white norms, but industry norms. And the industry norms are very, very different. And I think, so like when we go to New York City, it's pretty much expected when we go on that trek that people are gonna suit it up and they're gonna look like it's not about my race or my gender, but more about that I am being asked to control or manage people's money and they want to trust me, and this gives you this sense of trust. And then I've actually heard employers say, the more ethnic somebody looks in a role, the happier I am. I know that kind of sounds strange. I worked with one time with an advertising agency, and they said the more creative and crazy, I don't mean just kind of out there people look, like if you've got, 15 earrings in one ear and tattoos on your face, it doesn't bother me as long as you're really creative. And I would try to focus on what is the attire expected in a specific industry. So like in elementary school teaching, what is appropriate to put out there for your students in your community, in your culture, if that makes sense. I think that's different in, let's say, rural US as opposed to, San Francisco, that people have different norms. And I mean, I've lived around the US, and I always find it really funny that I don't perceive attire as just white attire. I see it as regional. Like when I lived in California, what people perceived as professional was very different to me than being from the Midwest or even from when I worked in the South. And I love my Pacific Northwesterners because they are very, they're pretty casual. And I like that casual thing. And so is it regional? Is it industry based? I think it's more than just ethnicity. So I would hate to have a conversation that was just based on that one thing related to attire. Yeah, does that answer your question, Becky? It's a really sticky question.
It is. It's incredibly a difficult question.
Yeah.
And, and so I like putting you in difficult situations,
I
right?
appreciate that.
No, but I think it's just, good to acknowledge within, our group here and who's going to watch later that, yeah, you're looking at the whole person and you're not just going to suggest one thing. And if someone says, well, this goes against this, or the way that you talk to students about expectations and norms is really good.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you all have been in our office lately, but we have a woman who works in our office who's from India. And I remember when she first came here, she said, do you mind if every once in a while I wear traditional Indian garb? I'm like, go for it. I think that'll be great. No, nobody's going to, say anything bad about that. And we all enjoy some of the cool things that she brings into the office, wears into the office.
Great. Well, great conversation. Thank you for asking the question, Becky, and for the answer. We are almost to the end of time. So I want to thank our guests for all this information that actually I think I'm going to be digesting for a little while. Lots of good data and just things that we can all be working toward. So thank you for providing all of that.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
We really appreciate you all.